We have massive breaking news at this hour. The Associated Press has confirmed that the United States Pentagon knew that the boat attack left survivors, yet launched a follow on strike anyway. The rationale? Well, it was to destroy the boat. But this is a clear cut war crime. And I have confirmed this evening, exclusively, essentially, that tomorrow will be the first briefing as part of a large scale bipartisan investigation into Secretary Pete Hegseth, Admiral Mitch Bradley, the President of the United States, and anyone else who knew or participated in these potential war crime strikes. This evening, I spoke with Senator Jack Reed, who is the ranking member on the Armed Services Committee, leading the investigation alongside Senator Roger Wicker, who is the Republican on the Armed Services Committee. But this, folks, is bombshell news. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Consider subscribing to my Substack by clicking the link below. According to the Associated Press, the Pentagon knew there were survivors after a September attack on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean Sea, and the United States military still carried out a follow-up strike. The rationale for the second strike was that it was needed to sink the vessel, according to the people familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to discuss it publicly. The Trump administration says all 11 people aboard were killed. What remains unclear was exactly who ordered the strike, whether it was Hegseth or anyone else. And while I spoke with Jack Reed about all of this, he is the one that's going to be leading the investigation. Let's just jump right in because this is a bombshell report and an important interview right now. Super excited today to be joined by Senator Jack Reed, the ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Now, Senator, there's a lot in the news this week about Pete Hegseth, the boat strikes, Signalgate, and I want to start talking about the boat strikes in particular. You and Senator Wicker, the Republican on the committee, previously announced that there would be some type of inquiry into Hegseth to try to get to the facts of what really happened. What's the status of that inquiry? What have you found out thus far?
Well, we're beginning in earnest the investigation tomorrow. We are going to have the admiral who was in charge of the operation, as well as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to join us. And we're going to go into detail as to precisely what happened, particularly with the second strike, which has engendered the suggestions, at least, that some personnel might have been killed in the water, which would be on its face a war crime. But we want to establish everything, all the details, who gave the orders, what instructions they received, what alternatives did they consider. It's a very serious charge, and we intend to take it seriously.
Now, today, the President of the United States, I'm not sure if you heard in the Oval Office, said that he would release the subsequent video of the second strike and any other follow-on strikes that occurred. Have you all received that video?
No, we have not. We've actually, both myself and Chairman Wicker, asked weeks ago in a formal letter to the Department of Defense for the release of the videos, for the release of many other reports, which they are holding up. And many of these are required by law to be given to us within a short period of time. They have been stonewalling, frankly, not just to the Democrats, but to Republicans and to the whole committee. So we hope that we can get access to these documents and use them as we search for answers to what happened and was it within the confines of the law.
Now, what happens if the evidence presented by the Admiral, by the Joint Chiefs, shows that there is a clear violation of law? There was a war crime that was committed. I guess, what happens next?
Well, I think if that's the case, then we have an obligation to report. That report would probably be to presumptively the Justice Department, because they would have legal responsibility. And ironically, because the Secretary of Defense is a focal point of many of these accusations, we couldn't report to him. That would be not particularly productive. That may require us sending a formal report or request to the President of the United States. But if there are violations, it's our responsibility to protect the constitutional order, and we will.
Now, I don't know if you heard when Secretary Hegseth yesterday said that he doesn't really remember seeing any survivors on the side of the boat because it was the, quote, fog of war. I wanted to get your reaction to that because to me and to many folks in the military that I've spoken with, that's not really what the fog of war is, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's not the fog of war. The reality is that we had very exquisite observation devices in the air, flying above. Uh, I am. There was no indication that the weather was adverse, so we couldn't see things. We took videotapes of the actual attack on the ships, which would suggest to me that they had a very clear view of what was happening and when was happening. Uh, and then other factors suggest that there was some time between the first strike and the second strike, and in that time, you can ask questions, you can request, further observations to confirm what you believe is happening. So this is far removed from what is typically the fog of war, which is chaos, confusion, fire coming from your opponents, limited visibility, etc. No, this was a very calculated attack with every means possible of determining the situation.
Now, Senator Schmidt, who is another senator from Missouri, he came out yesterday and kind of blasted the investigation, kind of suggesting that Senator Wicker shouldn't have opened up this investigation. Do you have any concerns that Republicans on the committee may tank the investigation or at least delay it to kind of cover for the administration?
Well, I hope not. And frankly, again, I commend Senator Wicker. This is a very difficult choice for him and for me, but more so for him. But he did it because his obligation to the Constitution and his dedication to the men and women in the military is sincere and very deep. We can't allow something like this to just pass over as nothing, because what you then find out is that the ethics of the military are no longer at the highest standards, which we like to think the American military is, but they're the lowest common denominator. You can violate international laws, you can disregard individuals who might be wounded and in need of assistance, even though that they're enemy or even non-combatants. So I hope that's not the spirit. I hope people recognize, as Senator Wicker did, that this is our duty, our constitutional duty. Well, our duty is not to protect the president. Our duty is to ensure that the laws, which include treaties, the Geneva Convention, which includes our own laws, which includes the Uniform Law Code of Military Justice. I spent a long time there, so it's surprising I'm sort of forgetting. But yeah.
Well, I got to ask you, when people say war crime, the premise is that we are theoretically at war or an act of war has taken place. Are we at war in the Southern Caribbean right now by legal definition?
Well, the administration is indicating that this is a situation of hostilities, and the logic is, and the judicial precedents, I don't think are particularly compelling. I think this is really law enforcement, as we've done typically. We, on a regular basis, interdict vessels that are containing cocaine in the Caribbean. We sometimes arrest the individuals on board the vessels, but this is done by the Coast Guard, which is a law enforcement agency. And that's what we should be doing now. This whole creation of a conflict rests on, in my view, very shaky legal grounds.
Now, before I let you go, I do want to get your reaction to news that broke a couple hours ago, and that is the Inspector General's report into the signal chat with Secretary Hegseth. What's your reaction to what presumably the public will see tomorrow that says that Secretary Hegseth put American troops potentially in danger?
Well, it's a classified report, so you have to be very careful about discussing it. But the news reports have been significant concerning the issue of putting American forces in jeopardy. That is something that any Secretary of Defense would consider to be the ultimate failure. Your job is to protect as much as you can American military forces. And from what has been publicly distributed, and also from common sense, when you get on an unsecure network signal and you talk about sensitive and one might argue even classified material, almost by definition, you're jeopardizing an operation. He was talking about this operation hours before pilots were taking off, and they could have suffered if this information was in the wrong hands. And as you know, the editor of the Atlantic Monthly was on the call. Now, if by mistake it wasn't someone as principled as Jeff Goldberg, who knows? That could have gone out, to just a random sort of wild distribution on email, which somebody picks up in the Middle East, and and they're ready. So that's why this is so serious, because it does jeopardize American personnel, and also it's extremely poor judgment. I mean, one of the first things you learn in the service, and you learn certainly when you get to a unit and handling classified information, is you can't talk about it on your cell phone. You can't do that. You have to be an authorized classified system. And that's a simple lesson that everyone knows.
That's fair. Senator Reed, thanks so much for joining me this evening.
Well, thank you, Aaron, very much. And you take care.
You too. Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.